The sudden loss of Sarah's parents was a shock that shook her to the core. Her world, once filled with luxury and certainty, became a dark and uncertain place. Sarah, who had always relied on the comfort of wealth and privilege, now found herself facing an unimaginable reality. Without the support of her parents, she had to confront the grief of their passing while also dealing with the collapse of the life she once knew. The servants who had once been at her disposal were no longer there to cater to her needs, as the family's fortune were all taken by her wicked uncles. Sarah moved from her lavish home to a smaller house, to live with her poor auntie in the village. The transition from a life of ease to one of struggle forced Sarah to grow up quickly. She had to learn how to navigate the world without the safety net she had always known. Yet, amid the loss and pain, as time passed, Sarah learned that true strength came from within, and her journey, though difficult, would shape her into someone far stronger and wiser than she had ever been. Sarah's new life in the village was nothing like the world she had known. Every day felt like a battle, and the weight of the responsibilities pressed down on her shoulders. She could hardly recognize the girl she had once been, the girl who lived in a mansion, attended the best schools, and had servants to take care of even the smallest of tasks. Now, she woke up before dawn and worked tirelessly, day after day. The chores never seemed to end. After cleaning the house and the compound, Sarah would drag heavy containers to the stream, sometimes walking in the cold morning mist, carrying water back for her aunt. Her aunt's demands were endless, but what stung the most was the unfairness of it all. Her cousin, Paul, who was of the same age as Sarah, never helped. He spent his days lounging around, never once lifting a finger to help with any of the household chores. When Sarah was finally able to leave for school, it was often a race against time. She would walk the long distance to school, exhausted from the work at home, only to find that her classmates were living lives that seemed so foreign to her now. Some days, when her aunts needed her at the market, Sarah had to skip school entirely, further falling behind. Despite the hardships, there were moments when Sarah found solace in the simplicity of the village. She noticed the beauty in the quiet mornings, the song of birds in the trees, and the peace of nature surrounding her. Yet, the pain of losing her parents and the life she had known was always there, lingering in the back of her mind. Sarah's resilience started to grow, even though she felt as though she was losing everything. She began to hold on to hope that somehow, one day, she would rise above this. With each passing day, she found strength in the small victories, the days when she didn't let the weight of her circumstances break her. It was hard, and it hurt, but she kept going. Because deep down, Sarah knew that the girl who had once been surrounded by wealth and comfort had the strength to overcome even this. Sarah's resilience was tested every day, but with the support of her friend Ugochi, she found a glimmer of hope. Ugochi was a bright and caring girl from her school, always willing to help Sarah despite their different circumstances. Whenever Sarah had to miss school to work for her aunt, Ugochi would lend her textbooks and notes, ensuring Sarah wouldn't fall behind. The late nights became Sarah's routine. After the day's chores were done and the house had settled into silence, she would sit by the dim light of a lantern, studying Ugochi's notes. It was difficult, the exhaustion from working all day often made her eyes heavy, but she pushed through. The determination to do well in school kept her awake, and each page she turned, each lesson she absorbed, brought her closer to the life she once knew, only this time, it was grounded in something much stronger than privilege, knowledge. Sarah's hard work and sacrifice paid off. Despite the challenges, she consistently excelled in her studies, surprising her teachers and classmates. She came out of every exam with flying colors, and soon, the whispers around school began to change. Instead of pity, people started to notice her dedication and intelligence. Her bond with Ugochi grew stronger, and Sarah began to feel a sense of belonging, not in the life she once had, but in the life she was now creating for herself. She realized that her worth wasn't tied to the wealth she'd lost, but to the strength and determination she carried within her. When it was time for Sarah to write her senior secondary school exam to move to the university, her aunt refused to pay her exam fees. Sarah was devastated and prayed for a miracle. One day on her way to the market, she entered a cab and found a phone on the seat of the car. Immediately she knew the phone had been forgotten by its owner, so she took the phone with her as she highlighted from the cab. Having an urgent need for money, Sarah thought within herself the best thing to do with the phone, either to return it or sell it. As Sarah sat in her room, the phone in her hand felt heavy with uncertainty. Her heart raced, torn between the temptation of quick money and the moral compass her mother had instilled in her. Her mother's words echoed in her mind, "Always be kind and choose to do the right thing at the right time." It was a lesson Sarah had learned growing up, but in this moment of desperation, it felt harder to follow than ever. She sat there, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring. Minutes turned into hours, but the phone remained silent. The temptation to sell it grew stronger. Her aunt had refused to pay her exam fees, and without the money, her dreams of continuing her education felt like they were slipping away. The weight of her future pressed on her shoulders. But still, she waited. Finally, just as the sun